derecho in the last 25 years. So many of you were here for the '08 derecho. Then we had one in 2012, right before I got here, and then and this year as well. And a derecho event is just a long range, wide area of high straight line winds. So we did not have any confirmed tornadoes in Hamilton County, but the winds did get as high as 68 miles an hour in some areas. So, which obviously you've seen the results of, you've lived the results in your lifetime of a derecho event. And then, of course, we had one earlier this week. So the event started about 2:56 p.m., which was our first severe thunderstorm warning. And this is when really we advise people to start paying attention when you start seeing severe thunderstorm watches and tornado watches. So that was the first one, and embedded in the languages of the very severe thunderstorm warning was possible tornado. And so when we receive warning languages, and it also actually is what goes out to everybody, we read the entire language of the warning so we can see if there's any other threats that we need to consider. And so when we were already watching the storm all day, we were watching it come from Indianapolis and Chicago, Indianapolis, and down. But once we saw that, we were already activated, but our staff went into full mode at 2:56 when that severe thunderstorm was issued. After that, we then had multiple tornado warnings that started, and I'll go through that here in a second, as well as more severe thunderstorm warnings. So it was quite a crazy hour, if you will. Multiple homes and businesses received damage. You've seen the media reports. We've sent staff out into the field to drive around the county and start documenting some of that. And we're also working with our communities to document the damage. And then, of course, the direct result of that was the extensive power outages. So at the height of the storm, 86,000 customers. So I don't say people; those are customers. So that's probably at least 2 to 3 times that number of people are affected by the power outages. And then without power, that quickly went down to 60,000, and then to the current about 24,000 today, as Duke continues to recover. So I like to walk through sort of what happens so people can see how fast we have to react, and then how fast it can impact people and how fast things can change. So at 2:56, you get the first severe thunderstorm warning entering from the west side, going southeast. So that was the first one with the language that tornado is possible. At 3:06 p.m., we had our first tornado warning. So our sirens are broken up into zones 1 through 6. Both the west side and the central zones were impacted, which also includes this campus. So I was actually talking to Assistant Administrator Chrisman Holly about the tornado warning, trying to figure out what do we do. My first reaction was it's not necessarily touching the downtown campus, and then that quickly changed, and then they sought shelter. So that's at 3:06. So that warning is going on. I think it was on for it was scheduled for about 30 to 45 minutes, and then at 3:33, a second. So the other tornado warning is still in effect. The second tornado warning comes out, and now that does include the downtown area and pretty much a wide swath of Hamilton County. At this point, we activated, we added into our rotation all sirens in the county. And our sirens activate 3 minutes on, 7 minutes off for the full rotation. And by the way, they performed very well during the storm. And then at 3:23, we had another severe thunderstorm warning sent out. At 3:33, we then had another tornado warning, which also included both our downtown campus as well as our central campus. And then at 3:47, just to sort of put a cherry on the top, we got another severe thunderstorm warning. So we were under tornado warnings until about 4 p.m. So it was really, and this and then the aftermath as it left the county. So the wind started well before 3 o'clock, and then it didn't end until after 4 o'clock. So it was going across the county for about an hour. So what do we do in that time? So obviously we are we're activated so we can activate our public warning systems. That's one of our key responsibilities. We're also coordinating with Hamilton County Communication Center. So I always say the benefit of us being jointly located now is we get almost an automatic look at how a storm front or an event is impacting almost basically county-wide, if you think about it and extrapolate the numbers. We notified the EOC team that there was an event going on and that they need to be prepared at all hours to respond. So we are getting more aggressive about being prepared and making sure our EOC team is on standby. We started monitoring all community impacts to ascertain if anybody needed any county assistance. We did reach out. So obviously everybody was in their initial first responder mode, initially trying to identify roads that were impacted, because right after this, so this, much like the previous one happened at the higher end of rush hour, about 6 o'clock, 5 to 6 o'clock. This one happened right before rush hour, which is our most highly trafficked time. So we're reaching out to see if they have any requests, and we did not receive any requests at that time. Also, at the same time, we're coordinating with Duke Energy. Obviously, they have to wait to they were monitoring it as well. They had their crews out as soon as they could safely start heading out around the county. And then they enter their initial damage assessment phase. But the minute a storm happens, I am coordinating with our liaison with Duke Energy about an estimated time of recovery, because that's the information we need for our residents. And then shortly after this, when we started getting reports of, obviously, everybody's food, if you lost power, probably spoiled. If you didn't have a generator, another way to chill your food. But JFS has a program that allows SNAP beneficiaries to get emergency SNAP funds to replace the food they lost. That program is always initiated in a widespread power outage, and so they knew to initiate that program immediately once they started seeing the extended power outages. We also, one of our goals is to not only coordinate with our local communities, but also make sure that everybody in the county is aware that the county has been impacted by a disaster. Anytime an incident happens, this one was county-wide, so your options for mutual aid inside the county were somewhat limited due to the county-wide impact, but oftentimes it only impacts part of the county. So our goal is to notify the entire county. We've had an incident in X area so that they start preparing if they need to help their neighbors. So, but you receive those situation reports as well in a timely manner. We also launched, we always have a website up and ready to go. We had actually started coordinating with the administration the day before on emergency public information, anticipating impacts of the storm, because we've been watching it actually all week. And so our webpage was already up and running, and all we have to do is make it live. And so we make it live. And then we work with everybody from the city of Cincinnati to all of our other community partners to then rebroadcast that information so people can start finding out what do I need to do. And so that by us maintaining that site, it allows the county to focus on other things. But we work with Bridget Doherty on that and all of our other public information and our emergency public information group that we have. We also started coordinating with the library system, ones that were open, all public rec centers, and the YMCA system. We know, so we're very fortunate in this event that the temperatures could have been much harsher in the middle of August, but the temperature, strangely enough, dropped pretty nicely if you're going to have your power out. But we know that charging critical equipment, phones, things like that becomes a problem. So we want to remind people where you can go to charge your phones. And the libraries and our rec centers and the YMCAs and the Salvation Army and others are always just phenomenal community partners and open up their doors so people can come in and use their space. We're continuing to talk to the communities about the impacts and if they need any assistance from the county. So again, it appears that most of our communities have been able to manage the impacts to their communities adequately. It may take a little bit of time, but they are managing it internally with their internal resources. And then we're coordinating with Ohio EMA for a possible disaster declaration. So the difference with this event versus our localized flooding event a couple of weeks ago, ironically, was that this was basically a statewide event. We still have ongoing rescues going on in Perry County. That sort of started the flood, if you will. And then, of course, Franklin County and that area all the way between north of Franklin, all the way down to us and all the way out east, you're seeing widespread impacts. So again, also what they're doing is, so they're managing the debris. So I think we will not see centralized debris management, but we'll see individual debris management working closely with Rumpke for the final destination for a lot of the vegetative debris. So far, we went out, and again, part of our damage assessment, just trying to gauge the impacts to the county. We have discovered 3 majors and 2 minors so far. We will continue to work with our communities so that we can, again, both assess damage to individual properties as well as damage to public property and then the recovery cost. We always we work with Hamilton County Environmental, coordinates our debris management operations for the county. So they use Hamilton County Resource to start collecting the debris. And so that was immediately advertised, or to remind people that's actually open year round, but this way, or X number of months, but this way we can use the system we already have in place to start gathering that debris for anybody that's hauling it themselves versus using a contractor. So working closely with Brad Johnson on that. And then I just wanted to highlight that so far as of last night, MSD had only received 38 calls. So again, this is more of a wind event than a water event. And then as of about 6:30 this morning, 24,000 customers without power and about 65,000 restored. And considering the breadth of the damage to the power lines and power poles snapped and transformers that had problems, I'm sure you've seen several of the videos out there. It's really, and I continue to say this, I think as much as possible, Duke responds very quickly and very aggressively. And they just got some more mutual aid. A challenge for any utility in this kind of event, when it goes from west to east, your neighbor mutual aid is unavailable, right? So normally they'd borrow from a power company in Indiana, Michigan, somewhere that was somewhat close, but they were all impacted. So now they're bringing up from the southeast, but they have to go around the path of the storm to bring up those resources. But they are bringing in resources from outside the state. They seem to spare no cost in trying to recover as soon as possible. So the declaration process, as you know, I just briefed you 2 weeks ago on the declaration process. We're assessing the damage to individual property, as well as we haven't heard about any serious damage to public property per se. So what we're tracking is the cost to recover, the cost to clean up. So I just spoke to the city of Cincinnati this morning, but all of our partners know we need to gather those numbers to work on meeting that threshold, because I feel like, especially Franklin County got hit a bit worse than we did. We might get to a federal declaration on this storm, but I don't know, because our threshold has gone up to, when I first started, I think it was something like 16, 18 million. Now it's 24 million in uninsured losses as a state. So we'll see if that happens. So obviously, if we don't meet any threshold, I think the difference between flooding and tree damage is if you have your traditional homeowners insurance, that usually covers trees falling on property. So you'll see a lot more insurance coverage, I think, in a storm like this than you do in flooding. Flooding is that one. It's sort of like wildfires in the West. It's a rider that you have to pay for separately, and earthquakes. So what are we doing? So ongoing, and I'm just going along through this, I know you have a lot, is we're continuing that damage assessment process. We have some time to complete that. And obviously our communities are actually still recovering from the storm. They're still gathering. We still have road closures. Duke still has several roads they have to get out. So when they have a tree against a power line, nobody touches it until Duke shows up. Whether we think the power's out or not, nobody touches it until they clear that piece, and then they can clear the road. We'll continue to work with the state of Ohio, gathering these numbers. Again, seeking either, if the county does reach that $4.2 million threshold or the individual assistance threshold, we can then request a declaration through Ohio EMA from the state, even if we're not included in the federal declaration. So, or if we don't get a federal declaration. And then, of course, we continue to monitor for other threats. And so I put up the maps here. A couple of our smaller rivers are at flood stage. I know it's hard for you to read. It's hard for me to read. I pulled, when you pull things off the internet. But I think they're just at action stage, so I think we'll be fine. I know Perry County up in the northern part of the state got hit a lot worse, and they're still dealing with the aftermath. I think ours will, and I'm monitoring the Ohio River. There's nothing near any kind of actionable states. We should be okay, but it doesn't mean we don't monitor it as we finish out, because I think we're due to get some more rain tomorrow, although it is nice and sunny today. So that's sort of where we're at today.
Thank you so much, Nick. It was so informative. I'll open it up to our board. Vice President Reese, do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Nick, for this presentation. and also explanation between the two differences, but obviously very important. One, you gave the threshold. We have to get to $4.2 million.
Uninsured losses. So that would be the cleanup costs primarily, since we didn't have any buildings that were destroyed or damaged.
Okay. And then you indicated that currently there's still 24,000 folks without
Customers.
power.
Yep.
Because that's what I've been seeing a lot of people
Yeah.
on
Oh, yeah.
complaining about. I know we talk about the individual home. Do we deal with small businesses? Because that was a big deal. I saw a lot of them that were flooded on the east side in during the flood, and then I saw some that got hit hard with a tree with tree damage.
So generally speaking, if we reach the threshold for individual assistance, the Small Business Administration generally awards a declaration as well. What that allows both individuals and small businesses to do is to take out low interest loans. So they're government backed low interest loans to make repairs. And so that program will be put into effect as well
Okay.
if we get the federal declaration.
I got you. Just to get an assessment, I was gonna ask, and I asked it during the flood, Mr. Ludo, our Office of Small Business, to work with Nick and give us an analysis on, what happened with small businesses throughout our county. Did any of them, those that were flooded, how many, maybe tree damage, so we can kind of keep up, because they usually fall through the cracks.
Yeah, we can reach out to the communities and see if they can
Yeah.
sort of give us that information.
Yeah, and I think in coordination with our Office of Small Business, because then if they have other things that can help them, that would be helpful. So
We can ask them to reach out to their network as well.
yeah. So if we could get that and then get a report back on the impact to small businesses, because a lot of them are struggling just on a regular day.
I know.
Alone, a disaster comes up. The other thing is when the trees are down, whose responsibility? I've seen them on top of cars. I'm seeing them, who's responsible for getting who do you call, or what do you
So
do?
in Ohio, basically it stops at the property line. So unless you knew a tree was a danger, I have a tree that overhangs my house, right? And I've actually had a couple branches fall. And it's otherwise a healthy tree. So if it falls, I'm responsible for the damage, both removing the tree and fixing the damage to my house. The only way the other property owner can be held liable, and that would be probably a court process, would be if they knew the tree was a problem. So basically, at the end of the day, it's the individual that's responsible. Sometimes, and that may change if a community owns the tree or if a park owns the tree. But from an individual landowner perspective, hopefully it's neighbor working with neighbor to mitigate and remove the tree. Because if it falls off yours, I've seen some of these, the whole base and everything falls over. Somebody's gonna have to chop up the tree anyway. But that would have to be worked out between the neighbors on fixing that and removing the tree.
Okay. So these big trees that I'm seeing, that I'm hearing from people that fell, came out, rooted, fell down, smashed a car. The person that the tree was on originally their property, they're held accountable even
No,
though.
they would. I don't believe. Now, I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah.
But
I'm
I don't
understanding, what do they do?
I think the individual would file a claim with their own car insurance, and if the car insurance company wanted to go through, insurance companies have a process for seeking reimbursement. But it would be up to the individual that was damaged, not the perceived it fell off of your property. So this person, you could literally, if a tree fell, you can cut a tree off where it fell. The top part is their neighbor's responsibility to deal with, and this is your responsibility from the base. So that's just the way the law is in a lot of states, not just Ohio.
Yeah. If they never dealt with this, who do they call? Their insurance?
Insurance company.
That's
Yes.
what I was asking. Who do they call? Because I see some trucks that come out and grab trees. I don't know.
Well, and
does that.
and the key thing is documentation. Anytime something happens to your house, especially in a storm like this, either for your insurance or for a claim you might make somewhere else, is taking those initial pictures. And now, of course, we all carry cameras
Right.
for the most part. And so it's documenting that damage and documenting the source because you start with your insurance. For example, my insurance company would pay my claim, and then if they wanted to go after either the other owner or the other company, they would do that in their own process.
Okay. The other thing is, I know we said that on your last meeting here that we're working on a study of, so on the east side, from the flooding perspective. It was said, not you, but I think it was MSD.
Yeah,
They're doing the east side study. I wanted to find out what is the studies, because we're starting to see 71 east side getting hit hard, but 71 at Norwood Lateral on each different occasion has been tremendously impacted. And to see a tree, I don't know who would be responsible for it, that falls across I-71 and, demolishes an 18-wheeler, I would like to know what's the risk. Have we had a study on what's the risk of our highways?
so
'Cause that's really scary.
yeah, that would be a question for ODOT. I mean, I think there's it's the concept of act of God, and that these appear to be perfectly healthy trees. So I don't think ODOT studies every tree next to an interstate. But I know that ODOT went out and cleaned up removed the debris, pushed it off the side, and then they'll take care of getting rid of it away from the interstate. And again, as far as the 18-wheeler, so that'll be that insurance, the insurance company for that company will absorb, again, I'm not a lawyer.
Right.
I would think that they will absorb the cost of that wreck. And as far as the flooding, you get a wide amount of rain in a short amount of time, and we've seen no matter, that interchange is fairly new, relatively speaking, for interstates. The storm drains just get overwhelmed, and then they back up. And so sometimes it's a matter of ODOT has to go out there and clear the drain. Other times they have to wait for the water to recede. And it's just this Mother Nature thing where we're getting these intense downpours.
Yeah, I just would like, Mr. Ludo, as we just reach out to ODOT, because this stuff is life and death. And it's getting really scary.
I will say I was just contacted by Holly for the start of that group that will look at the flooding issues. And so we're participating in that.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I was thinking about the trees that fall on the wires. Of course, Duke Energy will come out, and they may end up getting the bulk of the tree out of your yard or whatever. So,
yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse.
Yeah, thank you. Couple of questions and a couple comments. So when you talked about the SNAP beneficiaries and that there is assistance available for those that lost food because of power outages, how do people become notified about that? How would a SNAP beneficiary know that?
So there's information on our website. I didn't actually directly. There's a phone number and a website they can go to. And this is the one day. Oh, John Nelson is here.
John's here.
So he knows all about it. So I will defer to him.
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad that the help is there. I just wonder how people know about it.
Yeah, Commissioner, we've put out information outside through our website as well, and we made the form available on the front page of the website, on JFS website. It's a single-page form. People have up to 10 days to fill out the form, and it needs to be at least a minimum of 4-hour power loss, and they need to submit proof of the food expiration. But it's a very simple form to complete, and so once we have the form, we'll process the SNAP benefits back onto their card, so they'll get the amount of their food that they've lost back onto their cards so that they can go purchase the food again.
So do they have to know to go to the website, or does something go out from JFS to these individuals?
So, Commissioner, I believe that we sent out notifications through social media and through the website. I'll double check if we've sent text messages, but that's something that we can easily do to our clients that have opted in to receive text messages. We can send text messages.
Yeah, I don't know if you're in that situation, if you're thinking, oh, I better jump on JFS's website and see, but if they were notified, that would be a whole different ballgame.
Absolutely, and we can take care of that, Commissioner. And then they, and they can send the forms via email as well, so they don't even have to come to the building, or they can take it to either of our locations, to Forest Park or to Patricia McCollum, and we'll be able to process those.
So it occurs to me, if somebody's refrigerator is out, their electric's out, I wonder if their access to the internet is out, right? So the text message makes all the sense in the world if they've been able to charge their phone. So, okay, well, thank you. That's helpful information. I appreciate that. And Nick, as you talked about these declarations, and we talk about this all the time, meeting these thresholds, I just want to say that I know you have been really aggressive about making sure all the 49 jurisdictions in the county are part of this preparedness idea that you have been a champion for ever since you got here. And I know that you have made sure that they are all aware of the processes and procedures necessary to get us to that threshold. So I just want to compliment you and your team because you're serious about this stuff, and we appreciate it. You've gotten these communities in line to make sure that they are doing what they need to do to hit that threshold if we can. So I just wanted to, because I remember back in 2008, maybe it was, that communities didn't know what you were talking about. They just weren't prepared at all. So that's very different now, and I compliment you for that. And then lastly, I just wanted to say that I have a tree down on my street. It's not passable. I called. My neighbors were all, looking at this tree, and somebody noticed that there were power lines down there, which I had not noticed, and so it was dangerous. And so I called the 311 for the city. They were out there within an hour. They were investigating. They were analyzing. Firefighters were there. They closed down the street. They called Duke for the neighborhood, and eventually, we'll get that cleared. Internet's down. I mean, all the things, right? But they were really very, responsive quickly, and I just want to compliment them too, because I've never seen the city so responsive. I mean, it was really with all that
With all the calls they were getting,
right? They
yeah.
were, and now Duke is another. Duke, I don't expect to see for a little while because my street's pretty small compared to what's going on in Westwood and some of these other neighborhoods who still don't have power, and they've been out since the very beginning. So anyway, I just wanted to do a big shout out to the city for their responsiveness because it was impressive. But thanks for the update. It's really helpful. We get a lot of calls about weather and what's going on and what we should expect. I know there are more storms coming, but hopefully they won't be torrential storms, and we'll be able to manage that. So thank you.
And just to add to your point, if the minute any first responder agency or Duke hears power line down, the first responders will make it a priority to get over there and at least block off the area. But yeah, that was extraordinary considering they were probably getting lots of those calls. So our communication center in a couple of hours received over 1,500 calls. And it was really, really overwhelming. It's just a really
Such a
big number.
dangerous situation when
Yeah.
you got those lines, because it was not obvious that those lines were down. They were buried by the tree.
Big leafy trees.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and somebody saw it and said, there's a power line in there. I said, what? And so I called, but that was last night. So I know they've gotten calls 1,000 times over with much more dangerous situations. But that line down was the trigger, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple of things, Nick. Back to the SNAP benefits, I was just wondering, John, that the people that may be lacking or losing food will probably call in to where you call for SNAP benefits. I'm wondering, can you it may be more difficult than I'm thinking, so press 3 if you've lost some of your food, that you could mingle that in the phone message about SNAP benefits.
Commissioner, I can look into it. I'm sure there's a way for them to gather that information and put a special notice. We'll look into it, Commissioner.
Yeah, because they certainly will be calling, I'm sure. So, okay, that's all I have for John. For Nick, I just wonder, first of all, I want to apologize. And the reason why I want to apologize is I thought you were out of town. I don't know because I do your time. And
Mentally, I'm never out of town. So
and I called Ryan.
right? No, that's
This
that's perfectly
system
fine.
works.
Yep. Yes.
So I called Ryan a little bit around 12 because I had been watching as chair of the EMA board. I take it very seriously. And I had been watching and was very concerned. And then Ryan had Megan, is her name?
Morgan?
Morgan.
Yep.
She sent me an update. I said, no, this is not looking good. So I made the recommendation that we cancel our meeting. Didn't want to do it because I thought about how much, especially Commissioner Driehaus had gotten all this together, the women and girls thing. But then I thought about the babies. I call them all babies, driving in this weather and trying to leave in this weather. And I so made the recommendation and our board agreed to cancel the meeting. So, but the system, it does work if you follow it and keep up with it. I wanted to comment on this one section under damage assessment. And it says, for the people that are watching and they can pass information, Hamilton County Resource, you've already said it, has identified 3 locations for residents to drop off yard debris. And Resource is also providing guidance to residents on how to dispose of other debris, household chemicals, drywall materials, and batteries. So I just wanted to repeat that because that is so important. So thank you so much, and your staff was just phenomenal.
Couldn't do it without them.
Yeah, okay.
Can I add
Uh-huh,
anything?
sure.
Oh, one more thing to the SNAP. Oh, he left. Okay. Well, couple things. It was said that you only have 10 days. So the clock is ticking. I think that, and I'll ask Mr. Ludo. One is 513relief.org. A lot of people go there. We need to have something that pops up. I know that Bridget, sometimes we have something, she can make it pop up. We need to have something to pop up on that page so everybody kind of knows on 513relief.org about the SNAP, because we only get 10 days. Second is the bus is out, and it will be out Saturday for the back to school. It'd be great to have your staff's already there, have some forms there. People can fill it out there. They can find out about it. Because when we get to Saturday, we got but a couple more days before you can do it. The third thing is, Mr. Ludo, we do have advertising that we've been doing with the station, different stations. And I would think if we could contact them and maybe they can add as a public service a liner about if you have SNAP and your your food is spoiled, either call this number, you have 10 days. So those are other ways we can try to get the word out. One, we've got our staff that should be there. You could come there and do it there, and you guys know how to do it. You've got the computers, you've got all that. And then two, we can use our 513relief.org, make it pop up first, just as an alert. And then, like you said, the third thing is we could do liners with radio. You are advertising, the JFS, your media people do it. We got our thing, come on out for back to school, but they could add a liner that you've got 10 days from whatever day it is, and if you could be eligible, you can come out or you can call this phone number. So if we could be aggressive, as indicated on, here is what's available for our folks. Those are the things that I would add to what has already been said, to try to be aggressive in getting this information out the door. So those are some tools that I think we have that we could activate. And as I always said, we got to get this texting up. That's for everybody. Nobody's checking emails anymore unless they're told to check the email. So let's, still be aggressive on the text messaging. Now, Nick, you have a system that can go all the way out to everybody. Maybe there's a thing on there that says, hey, if you get SNAP benefits, hit this, whatever. You have 10 days from whatever the date was.
I'll make sure to add that to our.
Yeah, if you get that out, because you've got a text messaging that's unreal. That could also and it will get to all 49 municipalities. So those are the things I would just add for us trying to get that word out. So thank you.
Is there a need for pictures at all on your form when they say the electricity had to have been out for 4 hours? Do you have to take a picture of what's in your?
Yeah, Commissioner, they have to take the pictures of the expiration dates. And they can do that on the phone itself and just send it via email. So, yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you both. Fine men you are. Okay. Okay. We'll move on to public comments. We have a fine young man coming forward, Larry Falcon. Come forward, please. Your comment for 2 minutes. Thank you for coming.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm Larry Falcon. I'm here on behalf of Sierra Club Miami Group, and I'm here to talk to you about stormwater. There's a lot of that conversation going on right now. We've had 3 extreme weather events in the past 2 weeks. On my property, I had a retaining wall collapse, so lots of people in the area have suffered damage on their property. This is climate change that we're seeing, but let's be clear that this is still just the beginning of climate change. We are in the foothills and the mountains are ahead. So if we think that we are preparing for repeats of the storms that we had in the past 2 weeks, no, it's going to get a lot worse. And we need to be much more prepared than just for the kinds of events we've recently experienced. I'm here to support adoption of an impervious surface charge as the quickest, cheapest, and fairest way to manage stormwater in our community. April 26th, MSD proposed a pilot project that they called the Targeted Impervious Surface Charge Implementation Plan to get started on making owners of large impervious surfaces, large parking lots, responsible for the stormwater that leaves their property. That implementation plan, in Sierra Club's opinion, is fundamentally flawed. It makes the effort too slow, too expensive, and too bureaucratic. We, in May of 26, Sierra Club gave you 5 specific recommendations for how to improve that targeted impervious surface charge implementation plan. For convenience, you have both a copy of the targeted plan and Sierra Club's recommendations at your desk. I dropped those off this morning. Last week, Council passed a motion urging acceleration of that plan. Within the next month, you'll be getting MSD's proposed budget for the coming year. Let's make sure that it has the funds in it for implementation of the impervious surface charge and projects revenue from the impervious surface charge. Last year in the budget process, they told us, not ready yet, next year. Well, next year is here. Let's make sure it's in the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to comments and motions. Vice President Reese.
Okay, yes.
Let me just ask the question. You also have a copy of this? Okay, very good. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got to come. I've been to lots of meetings, so I won't go through all of those. But I want to remind everybody that the 3rd Annual Military and Veterans Appreciation Day is this Saturday, August 15th. And there will be a 250 military veterans, widows, and families march in together. We will assemble at Washington Park and walk down. Usually they do it for the FC game. Now we're doing it for our military families. Right after that, we'll cut the ribbon at 10 o'clock a.m. in front of TQL Stadium. And just want to say there'll be more than 100 partners and vendors that will provide free resources. I am so excited about this because I remember when we first started 3 years ago, it was like, will anybody come? We were at Great American Ballpark and we had over almost 3,000 veterans that came, and it was great. And then last year, we were at Sawyer Point, and we increased. We had more veterans come there. And I had one veteran come back to me and said, hey, when I came to the first one, I was skeptical. I didn't have a place to stay. I didn't have employment. And he said he came to the first one, and they connected him with employment and a place to stay, and he was coming back to say thank you and to help volunteer. So this is fun for the family. Yes, it's appreciation for our veterans, but it's a one-stop. It's a one-stop. And partnering with the Veterans Services Commission and Hamilton County, it's just been a great thing. And so this year we're at TQL and Glenn Wellington. And let me just say, our Veterans Services is totally different than 3 years ago. I mean, 3 years ago, just imagine, not too long ago, veterans were in here. They were saying we didn't have enough money to veterans. I remember reading a report, only 500 veterans had been helped. We were giving out just bus tokens with transfers, and We didn't have vans. We were told that we weren't putting enough funding toward it. It was rough in here. And just 3 years later, when we look at our board passing the largest budget in history for veterans in 200 plus years, we now have vans. We've got a new VSC leadership with Glenn Welling and a new board. We've got board members. Each of us got someone that can represent us on the board. Lincoln Ware is my representative. I'm hearing that the meetings, they're getting a lot of productive things done. It's a new team that's been hired that are VSC officers who are aggressive and want to help veterans. We have a new office now. They're with us in partnership in the building in the central campus. And I'm hearing that more veterans are coming to get help. They come in maybe for JFS services, and JFS says, hey, did you know that you also eligible for these veteran services? And it's just, and vice versa, and it has just been collaboration. And we have an event for Hamilton County that is saying that we appreciate our veterans, but not just thank you for your service. We're here to provide you the services that you deserve. And so when you think about veterans who fought for us so we could eat, we could have freedoms that we have, you know, families who their loved ones died for us, we owe it to them. And so this has been a positive. It is expanding. And when you think of 250 years, yes, life has not been no crystal stairs. But within there are veterans that stood up and fought for us and fought for our freedom. And so I just thought it would be perfect if we're going to celebrate 250 that the veterans of our community and their families are celebrated. So you can walk in with us, families. You can stand for your loved one that might have passed away. I'm going to be marching in honor of my grandfather who served in the Navy. And we're going in, and when we get in there, we've got music, we got free food. It's fun for the entire family. There'll be free parking. If you can park, and if you want to march with us, they got the vans that will take you to Washington Park, and you can march in with us. It's just incredible what has happened in 3 years. And so Glenn was telling me that a person came in, I think it was last week, and they connected them with the Veteran Services officer, and they recovered what was owed to them, which was $25,000. Can you imagine? You didn't know you had it, and you're walking out with $25,000. We can't leave that money on the table. It's owed to them. They deserve it. So when you come there, there'll be the VA, there'll be the DAV, of course, Veteran Services Commission will all be there, and they will be able to help you. Looking for a job, they got people to help you. Looking for housing, they got people to help you. Looking for food, they got people to help you. You a military business, you want to be registered doing business as a military veteran business, they're there to help you. Your disability, you ain't heard back, they're there to help you. You need to register, they're going to register you on the spot. Other counties now are looking at what we're doing. And so we went from where we were 3 years ago to now being a leader in this area. So if you know anybody, or if you are a veteran, Saturday, August 15th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., you can march in with us starting at 9. We marching at 9:30, and we're meeting at Washington Park. So excited about that, and our goal is to exceed even more veterans than we helped the last time. So I'm very excited about it. I'm thankful for it, and for me to see it now, going from the vision to now reality. So I want to thank everyone for putting Anson, I know represents us with the group. Thank everyone for putting this together. Again, disability benefits, housing, healthcare, employment, transportation, and other services. You can sign up right there. Next is I want to acknowledge the Cincinnati African American Firefighters International Convention is coming to town. Anson was a firefighter, and that's why he was getting everybody down in the basement for the, he said safety first. And when they saw Anson show up, everybody said, oh, this is serious. We're going to the basement. But the International has never been here. International African American Firefighters Convention has never been here. And I believe the president of the local Cincinnati African American Firefighters is C.J. Battle. But they are coming. I believe the international folks have arrived already. They kick off Saturday this weekend and all of next week. So we do want to welcome them. And I will be one of the speakers at the luncheon next week. So I'm excited about that at their president's luncheon at the Hyatt Regency Hotel downtown. So want to welcome them. In addition, part of this, this is our third annual 513 Relief Bus Back to School. And one of the things we wanted to do with the bus, I said, we got to have some big events. We do the youth employment, we do disability now, we do seniors, we do cancer, and we do back to school. And this will be our third one. And this year, I'm happy to partner with the Cincinnati African American Firefighters Association for their International Firefighters Association Conference. And we'll be kicking off with the 513 Relief Bus back to school, and they will be donating. We'll have additional backpacks, so we'll have almost 700 to 800 backpacks free with our partnership with them. And this will be also on Saturday, August 15th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Agape Love Ministries. And they're going to have workshops, we're going to have physicals, we're going to have all of that. And usually when you come early, everything's gone. And thanks to CAFA, we'll have 2 waves of backpacks. So the second wave that we're doing will start at 12:45, so we won't be running out, hopefully, of backpacks. We'll be doing health screenings, workshops, and all of that absolutely free. Haircuts, school supplies, free with the 513 Relief Bus Back to School Day. And that will be also on August 15th. Now, I didn't pick any of these days. I'll tell next year, let's do better with our dates because everybody needs to get together because we got everything on the same day. With that being said, I also want to acknowledge that I think it's 38th, might be 39th annual Cincinnati Black Family Reunion is this weekend. It's it's Saturday and Sunday. Saturday and Sunday that will be taking place this weekend and free. They got more than Saturday. I think they start tonight. They start tonight, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So the Cincinnati Black Family Reunion, and encourage people to participate. I want to acknowledge Kelsey Mitchell. Now, those who know basketball, Kelsey Mitchell is one of the greatest basketball players, male or female, to ever come out of Hamilton County to date. She is currently in the WNBA. She plays for the Indiana Fever. She graduated from Princeton High School, broke all kind of records, went on to Ohio State and broke all kind of records. I remember driving to the State House and saw her big billboard up. Broke all kind of records at Ohio State. She plays with the Indiana Fever, and she is one who really never got her props until now. And she is, I don't know how many weeks, I think the most weeks of a 20-point game or more. And the Fever is on fire, and she's from right here. I want to thank Mayor Poole, who had a parade for her last year. We had a proclamation and everything. We honored her. She was a finalist for MVP. And I'm here to tell you, there is no doubt that she should be the MVP of the WNBA. So they're in the playoffs. You guys need to watch it if you can. I mean, this, as a former basketball player myself, never at this level of her, but I know basketball, and she's one of the greatest to ever do it. So I want you all, she gives back to the community in Woodlawn. She's from Woodlawn, and there's a gym she had dedicated and put up named after her. But please watch Kelsey Mitchell. I believe she should be MVP, and she's killing it. So just wanted to highlight her. She's modest. She's very quiet, except on the floor. She's quiet, but don't let quietness allow us to just, sometimes people get quiet, we just move past them. Her quietness, but her giantness on the court is unbelievable. So I just wanted to acknowledge her today. I know we've given her a proclamation, we've given her own day, but we got to go even further. This woman should be the MVP of the WNBA this season. So that's all I have.
Okay,
Thank you.
Commissioner Dreehouse.
Thank you. I have a couple of things. First and foremost, Olivia Fries, my intern, is leaving as of today. She's going back to school at Ohio State. She's been great and quite an asset to my office. So thank you, Olivia, for your service to the county. Good luck in school. I know you'll do well, but thanks for spending some time with us this summer. Really appreciate it. A couple things that were very forward-facing from the office. The first one is the Hamilton County Addiction Response Coalition Roundtable. We had a meeting with the U.S. Department of State and delegates from all over the world who came to our regional campus up in Bond Hill to learn more about HCARC, about the work we're doing, about the collaboration, about some of the strategies to lower addiction overdose deaths here in Hamilton County. And it was my privilege to participate on that panel with others who are expert in the field, and really was thrilled to have an international delegation in here talking about the reduction of overdose deaths here in Hamilton County. Also forward-facing was Paddle Fest. So there was a woman here from Mexico who was with the Guinness World Records, and we broke the record this year for Paddle Fest. Brewster Rhodes is the organizer of all things Paddle Fest, which are with a very dedicated and enthusiastic team. And so there were 1,400 watercraft on the Ohio River for this event. And I don't know if you recall, the weather was not great this day. We started out in dry weather, but it started to pour down rain and everybody had to pull off the river. But 1,400 folks were out there, and it was really quite the accomplishment. So congratulations to Brewster and his team for gaining the world record for the Guinness World Records. It was really something. I also participated in a naturalization ceremony and offered a proclamation on behalf of the commission for some new Americans that have decided to make Hamilton County their home. So we welcome them. It was a nice, again, a national kind of oriented presentation and celebration for these individuals, but they are part of our new economy, and we're thrilled to have them here. So congratulations to them. I also attended the infant mortality update. BI3 and Cradle Cincinnati hosted this. The news is not great. We are backsliding a bit when it comes to infant mortality in Hamilton County. I think we got a report on this already, but particularly for African American women and babies, the rates are not good. And so they talked about strategies moving forward, community outreach, and how the Queens Village are trying to move throughout strategic communities to make sure that women are aware of safe sleep habits and trying to protect these kids in these communities. So I thank them for their work. I wanted to mention also, related to stormwater, thank you for being here, Larry. It's always a pleasure. These are serious issues that deserve a comprehensive approach. And so I think I mentioned it, it's been a while back. I had been at a national conference, and EPA said if we were collectively to apply for dollars from the federal government to try to eliminate some of this overland flooding, it would be best if we did that in coordination with one another, that being the county and the city. And so I convened a meeting with MSD, city stormwater, county stormwater, EMA was there, the engineer was there. You know, we were trying to approach these issues in a more collective way so that we could pull down some significant federal funding, because these projects, when you think about eliminating some of this flooding infrastructure, it's millions. And we just had a project in Norwood that was wildly successful, cost $3 million, and it encompassed a few neighborhoods. So that's the extent of what we're talking about here. So I talked to the mayor about this, and he is working internally with Waterworks, City Stormwater, and MSD to try to understand what they think the responses should look like. I have said to him, well, of course, that has to be broad, include the entire county. We heard from somebody from Norwood the other day, or no, it was St. Bernard, about making sure that they're included. And so I intend, through the Stormwater District and some of the other committees that I chair, to continue to convene these meetings, because we cannot sit back and say, oh, I hope that doesn't happen again, because it's going to happen again. And we all know that it's getting worse and worse as we go because of climate change. And so we need to have a more collective approach to this and be more aggressive. And I do agree we need to get more aggressive with some of the strategies that we think are going to work, but we don't have a lot of time to wait to implement some of this stuff. So more to come on that, but it's a serious issue, and it, as I said, takes a big old approach to try to solve. And then lastly, it was mentioned that the meeting for the Commission on Women and Girls was canceled on Tuesday. Hugely disappointed, because there were so many girls and women coming to that with their families. We had a reception planned, and the meeting got canceled. So, and I want to be clear, I was in favor of moving forward with the meeting, but that was not supported by the majority, and that's fine. But I do want to say that I apologize to the women and girls for not having been able to pull that off. I know the weather was challenging, and so that probably people would have been challenged one way or the other. But regardless, we're going to have another meeting and try again on September 10th at 6 o'clock. It will be at the Bond Hill campus. We will have a small reception outside of that, and then celebrate the new cohort for the Commission on Women and Girls. And I look forward to doing that. Hopefully weather holds, and we'll be able to move forward with that. But I do also want to recognize Mary Mounty, the program coordinator for the Commission on Women and Girls. He put quite a bit of effort into the effort, and so we will do it again, and want to make sure that she deserves the recognition for having organized that, and she will organize again to make sure that we can celebrate these women and girls. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple things.
Commissioner,
Yes.
I just need a point of clarification. I thought it got canceled because of the sirens, and y'all got moved to the basement. But anyway, for safety reasons, obviously it got canceled. But
Right.
mine was based on sirens, and the whole building here got moved to the basement. So I just wanted to make sure. But I'm glad it is going to be rescheduled, and I do want to acknowledge Commissioner Driehaus and your team for the hard work. But usually I let the person with the initiative make the final decision. But I think the sirens and the other stuff might have put us in a bad light.
Well, it was a challenging situation. For
Yeah.
sure. It was cleared up by the time the reception would have started, but I guess we didn't realize it.
Well,
So here we are.
no, let me make
I
that
never
clear.
voted to.
So the necessity of saying who agreed and who didn't agree, well, you need two to agree. There were obviously two. I didn't know that you didn't, but agree. But I don't think it's even necessary, in my opinion, to say who agreed. And mine was on the basis of safety. And it may have stopped at 4 or 5, but we know from all the pictures and all the video that there were trees everywhere. So I'm very, I stand very strong on my decision not to do it, and also being aware, as I said earlier in my comments, all the work that had been done. But at some point, we have to look at safety, and I'm glad that we did. Well, some of us did. So I'll move on to.
Let me, well, no, Commissioner.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, if there had been a safety issue, I would have been in favor of canceling the meeting. But I mean, I went to an outdoor concert that evening, so there were things happening still. I recognize that we have differences of opinion as to whether or not there would have been a safety issue at the start of the reception, and I respect that the meeting got canceled. But I do want to note that I was hopeful that we could move forward. We didn't. That's fine, and we will try again. But I don't neglect safety issues when I make decisions. I just
Okay, and I don't either, and that's why I recommended it. So I'll move on with my comments, and we are rescheduling for September the 10th. I got a phone call from the influential women. They wanted to do an interview to recognize the things that I've done in my history in politics, but just be careful because it's really a more of a sales pitch. If you're willing to pay a couple thousand to have your name in a magazine or whatever, that's fine. But I just want to let those who may be getting phone calls to know that once you do all this great discussion, at the end, they'll tell you how much the cost is for everything. I'll move on to, we had a special Board of Commission meeting to vote for the Children's Service Levy, and we did make a decision that we did not take the TLRC recommendation, but we took a smaller recommendation to take less, to try to hopefully take less out of the pockets of our residents, would be a $39 increase along with what the children's levy is currently. So we did decide on that. I make sure that wherever I go that I advocate for our children's services levy. I attended I was on a webinar yesterday, Southwest Workforce Board webinar, and I made sure to indicate about the children's levy that we have that we want to put on the ballot, and for them to advocate also, if they're in agreement, different agencies from all over. The board was about 50 people on that board. Now it's down to 37, but I just let them know how tragic it would be if this levy does not pass. And I just want to, and also for the Workforce Board, their staff has moved to a community action agency. We have been providing fiscal services to them. They are no longer using Hamilton County. They also said they're getting rid of their QuickBooks and going to another system, which I'll let Jeff know about it, and John, even though we're not involved in that, but just wanted to let you know what system they are using. And I also wanted to thank Mr. Fallon for coming on this impervious surface fee. This is like I've been hearing it forever and a day, and so hopefully we'll be able to come up with some permanent solutions in a immediate time. We've been doing this, like I said, forever. I wanted to mention about the Black Family Reunion breakfast. It was mentioned earlier about Black Family Reunion, but their breakfast is on Friday at our new First Financial Convention Center. So if you're interested in being a part of that, you can probably call the First Financial. I don't have all that information with me, but they are having the breakfast there for the first time. And that will end my report. Jeff, you have any?
Commissioners, yeah, no by leaves today, but at least items, but just a quick comment, just with the storms that we did have. Just want to, as always, just thank all the public employees that were out there doing whatever they needed to do. Some of them being put directly in harm's way to help clear things up and help keep the public safe. We've got folks in the county. We've got the engineer's office, the sheriff's office, 911, planning and development, county facilities, EMA, JFS. All of these agencies doing work, whether it's locally here in our buildings to keep them safe, or whether it's out on the roads or fielding calls from residents in need. I just want to thank all the folks who did all of that work, including our partners at the city and at the state. We've got people at MSD, Waterworks, ODOT, SORTA, that just do a great job keeping public services moving while we have emergencies like this that no one can really see the impacts coming. So, Commissioner, that's my only comment for today. No by leaves, but I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much. We'll go to regular agenda. Engineer, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for those comments, Jeff. Our crews were out starting at about 3:30 on Tuesday. As soon as the storm, the rain passed through, we have been out there continuously since then, clearing the roads. To Commissioner Reese's question, the county does remove all the debris and the trees that are within the right-of-way. That's what our crews are out there doing. They're cutting them up, removing them as we speak. Most of the townships do the same thing on township roads. They clean everything inside the right-of-way. And a lot of the townships, if the property owner pulls it out to the right-of-way, they'll remove that as well. So we are currently have about 9 roads, I believe, still closed, county roadways, waiting on Duke to get out there and get the lines out of the way so we can finish cleaning those up and get those open to the public. But again, our crews were out there. I want to applaud them. They were out there in the rain with chainsaws, cutting up trees, and they did a great job. They always do. So
Can I ask you a question?
you can.
How do you, so like, who do they call? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, how do you find out?
Typically, well, I was out there driving it and calling
Right,
a lot
right.
of them in.
Yeah.
The sheriff's department calls us when there's things down.
Gotcha.
Our general number, we receive many complaints there, and we relay those to our maintenance crews and get people out there. But we're in communication all the time with all the local emergency services, and we take care of anything that we hear of.
Okay, that's great to know, because we talked about the city of Cincinnati and what they've done and how great, obviously, they've been. But like you said, we represent outside areas, and I just wonder, like, if you lived outside, where do you go? Who do you call?
Most people call their townships,
That's
and then
okay.
the township relays it to us if it's a county road.
Got it. Okay, thank you. And thank you to all the workers out there.
And actually, you said something about Nick being gone. I called him and asked him the same question, and he called me right back. And I said, well, I'm standing in traffic, directing traffic right now. And he said, I've got everything taken care of. If you need anything, let me know. So I appreciate Nick being responsive as always.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So just 2 items today. Item number 1 is a resolution approving an agreement with Carpenter Marty Transportation for professional engineering services for the East Miami River Road landslide correction. This is located in Colerain Township. The agreement is $134,104.34 out of the permissive auto funds. This is for a roadway project that we received OPWC funding for the construction. So this will allow us to get the design done. Item number 2 is a resolution authorizing an agreement for the purchase of property deemed necessary for the right and privilege to enter upon and make necessary improvements on a parcel on East Miami River Road Bridge located in Colerain Township. The property address is 8968 East Miami River Road. It's owned by the Board of Park Commissioners of Great Parks. This is for a standard highway easement for us to do the bridge work in the amount of $3,517 out of permissive auto funds.
Thank you so much. Questions or comments, Vice President? Commissioner, okay. I make a motion to adopt items 1 and 2.
Second.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes.
Commissioner Reese?
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Thank you.
You. Consent agenda.
Thank you, Commissioners. Item number 3, Commissioner, is an appointment. I didn't know if you wanted to.
Yeah, I'll take
that
it.
one.
Thanks. Item number 3 is a resolution reappointing 1 member to the Mental Health and Recovery Services Board, Tracy Henry. I want to thank her for coming forth, and we're filling more of our boards and commissions. Any discussion? Any discussion? I make a motion to adopt item 3.
Second.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes.
Commissioner Reese?
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Your consent agenda then picks up on item 4. Item 4 is a budget adjustment for $977,641 within the clerk, clerk of courts, the engineer, EMA, some various projects within the engineer. planning and development. The largest of these are actually some state grants being accepted in the sheriff's office for drug interdiction and addiction response efforts. Item 5 is accepting sales tax charges within the clerk of courts for $32.06. Item number 6 is an item within the sheriff's office. This is approving a contract for police protection in Sims Township. This is revenue coming into the county, $5.133 million over 3 years. That's 1.6 in the first year, 1.7 in the second, and 1.79 in the third year. Item 7, Commissioners, is the execution of a lease with Litvack Holdings for office space at 1607 Mansfield Street. This is a replacement for the Juvenile Court Assessment Center, which is part of the property being sold at 264 William Howard Taft Drive. So this is a replacement for that facility. Item number 8, Commissioners, is the modification of Section 2.8 of our personnel policy. This just provides HR with a bit more flexibility when assigning compensation for individuals who are taking on temporary and interim roles, particularly in a leadership capacity during a vacancy. Item number 9, Commissioners, begins your JFS items. Item 9 is an amendment of an agreement with Abraxas Group for residential treatment services, $495,000. Item number 10 is a renewal of a single source agreement with Nutter Center for Empowering Women for group home services, $646,000. Item 11 is the renewal of a single source agreement with Marie's House of Hope for group home services, $100,000. Item 12 is an amendment and renewal of an agreement with the YWCA for home visitation parent training services for $600,000. Item number 13 is actually a grant. This is with the Dave Thomas Foundation. This is to fund the recruitment of individuals to help or to locate individuals willing to adopt children with special needs. This is a grant in the amount of $540,000. Item 14 is a renewal of a single source agreement with Hope for Tomorrow Counseling for group home services, $876,000. The total of those JFS, at least the expense-related agreements are approximately $2.7 million. Item 15 is a resolution authorizing the use of credit cards by the recorder in the amount of $2,500. Item 16 is the report of no objection to 7 liquor permits, 2 in Green Township, 2 in Colerain Township, 1 in Delhi, 1 in Crosby, and 1 in Sims Township. And item 17, Commissioners, is a request for authorization to travel at the county's expense. This is 2 employees to Minneapolis, Minnesota. And that is your consent agenda, Commissioners. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jeff. Any questions or comments, Vice President Reese?
No questions, no comments.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes, just one thing related to items 4 and 13 in particular. I think we've heard a lot about our budget, how constrained we are. We've got the Children's Services Levy going on for an increase, and I think people expect us to become creative when it comes to our funding and how can we continue to provide services and with a constrained budget. There are significant grant dollars coming to the county through these items, and I just want to shout that out and say that the sheriff, HCARC, and JFS have been aggressive in pulling down these dollars, and it's tremendously helpful when we think about all the services we're trying to provide, and I want to compliment staff for that work.
Is that it?
That's it.
Thanks. Item number 6. Jeff, I was wondering on the Sims Township and the sheriff coverage, is that a new agreement or is that a renewal?
That is a renewal, Commissioner. So it's a new 3-year agreement, but we've patrolled Sims Township in the past.
Okay. And how many are we patrolling? We have quite a few. I think it's only about, I'll let you answer it.
I don't have all the total number in my head, Commissioner. I can get you that.
I think it's only about 3 that we're not. Miami, okay, you let me know.
Yeah, there are some that have their own specific police departments, but I can get you the total number.
That would be great, thanks. Let's see. Item 13, which was mentioned earlier about the grant we received. Are there any specific staff we need to thank in our administrative area who helped with?
Good question. John, do you know who's responsible for applying for this and managing the grant?
Yeah, Commissioner, it's our contracting team and our education team, as well as our placement teams at JFS that really do it. So they do a wonderful job. This is a recurring grant. We get it every year from the Dave Thomas Foundation, and it does great work because it helps our most vulnerable special needs kids find permanent adoptive homes.
That is great, and we get it every year. Hopefully, we'll continue to get it. Thank you, John. As it relates to JFS, I wanted to indicate with additional funding that Jeff mentioned, we're up to $4.3 million that has been not allocated, but that we've written down, and we've told the agencies that we will give them if we need to. So now it's August, and we're already up to 4.3 million this year for services that have been not distributed, but allocated. So I just wanted the public to know that. That's sure.
4.3 per this agenda, is that what you're?
It's a total of,
On the agenda.
yeah, thank you for that clarification. It was 1.6 and then it was 2.7 today. So thanks for that clarification.
Yeah, I didn't know if you were talking about like the total, that you've got that running total.
Right.
Yep.
So it's the total. Thanks for the clarity. Okay, so I would like to make a motion to pass items 4 through 17.
Second.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes,
Commissioner Reese?
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes?
thank you. And we have an executive session. Before we go into that, I'd like to ask Jeff, you know, I've been reading a lot of articles about the events that we had last weekend, Music Fest, Omega Sci-Fi, and all the media talks about the millions and millions that came into the county. Just wondering if you can, not now, of course, break down how does that impact Hamilton? What did Hamilton County get? What did Cincinnati get? What did Visit Cincy receive? So, because people are thinking millions and millions, so maybe we don't need the levy. I've heard people say that. So how that breaks down for Hamilton County, I'd like to see that. Okay?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner.
Okay.
We can provide a report for you. I mean, a lot of that is going to be in the form of transient occupancy tax
Sure.
revenue, which, as you know, is a very specific purpose. But we'll provide a report back to you on that.
Thank you so much. Okay, let me read this executive session. I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session pursuant to ORC Section 121.22 G2 to discuss the sale or acquisition of property.
Second.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes.
Commissioner Reese?
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes?